Let's talk about marginal tax rates. I'm Nathan Seelove, and this is Factually Biased. So I know that this whole controversy and argument started a few weeks ago, but it's continuing, and it likely will continue. So I think it's important to clear some things up for those of you that don't necessarily understand what a marginal tax rate is and why it is different from just an income tax. So first off, I'd like to talk about how this debate sparked in the first place. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on a 60-minute interview, and she discussed the possibility of a 70% marginal tax rate. Now, this sparked a lot of controversy among right-wing circles, and it also sparked a lot of straw-manning attempts. So one kind of hilarious case of this was former Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who basically made this tweet saying that he had went to a bunch of kids and said, hey, if I gave you $10 and then you went home and your mother took $7 of those dollars away, would that be fair? No? Well, great. Even kids understand that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's proposal is unfair. Now, the thing about that is that it either demonstrates that Scott Walker has no idea how economics works, which is kind of concerning considering the fact that he was a governor, or it just demonstrates that he is not intellectually honest at all, and he has no intention of being, and he has no intention of trying to have a legitimate conversation. So, first off, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's proposal was to tax people that were making annually $10 million or above at 70% marginally. So first off, only about 16,000 Americans make that much. So if you're only making $10 a year, first off, if you are, you should probably contact the Labor Department, but you would be unaffected by that. So it's a stupid argument to begin with. And secondly, it would only affect 16,000 Americans. So I don't understand why there's been so much outrage sparked by some people that are not super, super wealthy over this proposal. Second off, a marginal tax rate does not mean that it is 70% of your entire income. You know, it's not to say if you make $10 million and you only get, at the end of the year, you only get to keep $3 million. No, that's not how it works at all. What it means, because it's a marginal tax rate, is that any dollar that you make above the $10 million is taxed at 70%. So like, say you make $10 million and $1. Well, that $1 would get taxed at 70 cents. So, look, if you're against the idea of a 70% top marginal tax rate, then make an argument. That's fine. Just don't try to straw man it. Don't try to like make it anything that it isn't. Also, don't try to make the argument that this is some kind of this demonstrates that she's trying to create this hostile, authoritarian, communist, socialist takeover, because this is not the first time that this would not be the first time that we've had that high of a tax rate. Between the mid-60s and the early 80s, the top marginal tax rate in the United States was 70%. And before that, under Eisenhower, it was in the 90s. So you can't tell me that if this happens, it would create some kind of hostile communist takeover, because that didn't happen back then. Now, if you want to make an argument that the golden age of economic expansion was not actually that great, that the marginal tax rate is not what made it that, then fine, make that argument. if you want to say that it would be different today because we live in a different time, make that argument. But don't try to fearmonger about it, and don't try to pretend that it's something that it's not. Let's have a legitimate discussion about this, because as it stands, we have one of the lowest marginal tax rates that we've had in the last century. And I think it's worth discussing increasing it. If you're going to get involved in this argument, be intellectually honest, and don't try to fearmonger, and don't strawman. Well, that's today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a share, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Check out some of my other stuff, and I will talk to you next week.